Welcome to PhotoshopUser TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And now, here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys.
Hi everyone, welcome to an all-new I Can't Believe It's Not Butter episode of PhotoshopUser TV. I'm Corey Barker. We are brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, those who bring you PhotoshopUser magazine.
There it is.
I'm joined today by Mr. Pete Collins, who's also our magazine holder.
Yes. How's it going, guys?
Surprise guest in the studio, Mr. RC.
I know. What's going on, man?
What's going on? It has been a while, hasn't it?
I know. I've been on the road. I've been traveling, doing seminar action, and I figured I'd kick it up with the Reverend Run outfit.
and you wear it well.
I know.
Is it?
All right. I do well.
Good. All right. So before we get things started, we want to talk a little bit about a couple of things. Of course, we're very excited because Photoshop World is very close. Coming up on April 17th through the 19th in Orlando, we are all going to be there amongst all the other guys.
Now, Corey, if I would say, if there were one guy that you're excited about seeing at Photoshop World, who is it going to be? I already know who it is.
Besides myself? No. Absolutely, Aaron.
Wow, you're given an opportunity to be able to do that.
No, of course, Aaron.
Aaron.
A good friend of mine, Aaron Blaze, he is an Oscar-nominated animator, been a 20-year veteran of Disney animation. He is actually going to be joining us and teaching some stuff that he's been doing lately in Photoshop, a lot of his digital paintings and such.
And if you hadn't seen him, he actually came and did a couple Photoshop TVs with us, so go back and check him out.
Hopefully going to get him back on the show here sometime between now and April before Photoshop World, so be sure to check that out. But he's a really great guy. He's really
you can see him live.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can see him live. Make sure you go to PhotoshopWorld.com and take a look at Aaron and Corey and Pete and all of the other people that are out there. So it's going to be a great event. It's something that we're really excited about. We want to make sure that you guys know early before we actually get into the show.
We are indeed excited. So, all right, so I think Pete's going to kick things off today with a little something. What do you got for us today?
All right. Well, today, if you're not a NAP member, you need to be a NAP member because we have so much stuff packed into the NAP member website. We have all kinds of tutorials from all of us, from other folks. It's just a learning palooza over there. We've got new online full-length classes over there. And this is one of the tutorials that I put up last week that talks about how to kind of deal with a few things in your photographs. And so if we take a moment and look at this photograph that I have here, I was out testing out a camera, and this was a snapshot I took of this guy. This is literally a 30-second picture of this guy, and I liked it. He was very generous to let me come into this cigar shop and take a look at some things and take some pictures. And so I want to send this to him. There are a couple things that I want to do with it. And the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to take care of some of the distracting details. Jay Maisel talks about always looking at the corners of your photographs and see what's going to be drawing your eye away from the main part of your photograph. Here, he is the center of the photograph. I want it to focus on him. And there are a few things that bother me, especially this white area from the roof of the shop there. Like I said, it was a quick photograph, so I should have recomposed it so that this didn't interrupt with this hat here, but there's something I can do. I take it into Adobe Camera Raw, and I simply add a vignette around here. Now, this is a little heavier vignette than usual, but I did it specifically so that I could knock down this white area here. And if I do a little before and after, you can see a difference it makes as far as our eye not being distracted in the photograph. Now, there are a couple other things that I could deal with. Your eye is always going to be drawn to the whitest part of the photograph. So this little light reflection here, I may need to dull down. And a couple things over here, I would take and try to get those a little bit more limited in being able to see them. But what I want to show you today, the tip I want to show you today is all about dealing with wrinkles in fabric. Because what's going to happen, no matter how often you work with stylists and other things, sometimes you're going to get some fabric that's going to be wrinkled, and you're going to want to tackle that. Let me show you what I would do if I've got a shirt like this or something else that I wanted to attack the wrinkles. First thing I would do is come over and get my spot healing brush, and my goal is going to be to go in and make some make big swipes and get rid of as many wrinkles that I can on a large scale.
It's digital ironing.
Yep, it's basically I'm going in here and trying to iron things out. And that's not the tip. Whenever I'm working with retouching, I always try to do as much work as I can with the spot healing brush to let the computer do the work. The other thing that I do when I'm retouching is I'm always looking for a good place to be sort of my source material for later. What that means is I know that I'm eventually going to have to come in with, say, a cloning tool or my healing brush, and I'm going to want a nice clean section. This little section of fabric right here is probably the cleanest section that I have. And this is the tip I want to give you. Most people, when you're working with something like the healing brush, you think, okay, this works great if I select this area here and I come over here and start painting with the healing brush. It's going to clean that up. And the reason why we want to do that is we want to keep the texture of the fabric over here while knocking out some of those wrinkles. But what a lot of people don't know is, even though I have selected this area on this color of the shirt, I can come over and brush in the white section of that shirt, and look what happens. It knocks out the wrinkle, but it doesn't apply the color. And for a lot of people, you feel limited that you can only use a certain part of the fabric or a certain area and use that to clone it out. You can really cheat by using other parts and realizing that it's going to take, the healing brush is going to take into consideration the color that's around what you're laying down that brush on, and it's going to use that color, and it's just going to provide the texture and the tone from your sample fabric to place it in there. And so that's going to save you some frustration if you've got a little bit of something and you need to use something else. Don't worry about the color. Just use the healing brush, get in there, and you can knock out some great wrinkles using the wrong color. And it's a great little tip to have in your arsenal.
Actually never considered doing it.
I can bet you 20 to 1 that there are 100 different light bulbs that are going off right now in people's heads on the entire concept of that, because I think that whenever people start working with healing and retouching and things like that, color is always a big priority.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things where it's like, do I want to match color? I don't want to pollute color or doing any of that kind of stuff. And a lot of people don't know that. It's one of the things that I think that was very, very eye-opening.
Well, and another thing I should have said is usually when I'm working on retouching or whatever, I go ahead and create a new blank layer, and then I make sure sampled all layers is on. So I can come in here and I can work, and let's say I did a retouching area like this, and it looked good, but at some point I didn't like it. I can just get rid of it or erase that section because it's on its own layer. It acts as if it's healing right on that layer, but by setting sample all layers and doing it on a new blank layer, I have even more control over that.
Right.
That's just another little tidbit.
And I think that's one of those things where it's very, very helpful. Guys, I know that we've mentioned this before, and I want to make sure that I take a moment to mention it again. One of the things that we get really excited about here at NAP is the ability to be able to bring you guys training like that. And it's one of those things that I think that this organization and Photoshop User does very, very well. These kinds of things are the things that we're doing inside of those full-length classes that we were talking about at PhotoshopUser.com. If you're a NAP member and you haven't seen it, please do me a favor. Go take a look at those classes. There's no better place right now for you to go from, I don't know what I'm doing in Photoshop, to now I'm a pro in Photoshop, than those sections. And I think that Pete has been great at demystifying a lot of that stuff for us.
I am the demystifier.
You are the demystifier.
And it's great because it's focus training. Whether you're a designer or a photographer, you can go in either direction and really just get really in depth with Photoshop. So I think that's just cool. So,
Well, thank you, Corey.
So I'm going to take a breath because he took my breath away on that one. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. I've got a quick tutorial as well as Mr. RC and a few other things. So stay with us. Be right back.
Hi everybody, I'm Scott Kelby, President of the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. Of course, we just call it the NAPP, or just NAP for short. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about NAP and how for more than 15 years it's become the place where people go to get really good at Photoshop. Now, one of the key benefits of joining NAP is that you get Photoshop User Magazine. It's a print-based magazine, packed cover to cover with step-by-step tutorials, real-world articles, and feature stories from literally the very best Photoshop trainers in the world today. As the editor, it's my job to make certain that we teach you the most important techniques and the most requested features, and that we do all of it in plain English, straight to the point, and we teach it in a way that makes it really stick. Each issue is pretty thick, so it's kind of like getting a Photoshop book mailed right to your door 10 times a year. As a NAP member, you also receive exclusive access to the NAP member training site. It's the largest and most complete Photoshop online training resource of its kind. You'll have access to thousands of online tutorials and complete start-to-finish Photoshop training classes from the best in the business. Also, brand new with your membership, now we have full-length online training classes on Photoshop, so you can learn 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter where you are in the world, from the world's very best instructors. We also have 3 different tech support help desks on Photoshop and Lightroom and on Gear, where you get your questions answered directly by our experts, one-on-one, right when you need it. Another big benefit of being a NAP member is that you'll save money on everything from software purchases to Macintosh and PC hardware, from plugins to printing and everything in between, even stuff like hotels and rental cars. It's the power that comes with being part of an association with more than 70,000 members around the world. And because of our large membership, we've been able to negotiate special deals and discounts and special offers exclusively for our members. And we hear from members all the time that say, you know what, I saved so much on my first deal it paid for my entire membership. NAP also produces the Photoshop World Conference and Expo. It's the world's largest Photoshop event where members from all around the world come together for 3 days of amazing classes and networking taught by the best trainers on the planet. Best of all, NAP membership is incredibly affordable. For just $99 a year, you can have all of this and more. This is where people come to get really good at Photoshop, and I'm inviting you to join me here at NAP right now and start learning today.
All right, guys, well, welcome back. We took a nice little break. We are back, and Corey's going to dazzle us with his new tutorial. Show us what you got, Corey.
Do I have to?
It looks a little splashy.
It's splashy indeed. Okay, I actually just want to talk about extracting elements. You know, I use, Pete and I are big fans of stock image websites like Fotolia or iStockPhoto, and I tend to look for a lot of design elements that I use in my designs. And in this case, this is a splash element that I've got. The problem is these elements don't come on layered documents. They don't come extracted. You have, you know, they're often on a white background, and you've got to extract them from their backgrounds. And, you know, some users might go in here and maybe try things like the magic or tragic one, if you want to call it that, and select the background or try and select the element itself. And it just, you're never going to get that kind of selection. And to this day, as advanced as selections have gotten in Photoshop, I still use channels for this sort of thing, because it still gives me the best result. So,
well, I like how you've chosen a white splash too, just to make it a little extra challenging.
Well, and it's because I like the splash itself. And oftentimes, if you know what challenges you're going to run into in Photoshop, you'll go over this. You'll pass it up in the stock site and say, I don't know how I'm going to extract that. I'll just go to the next one. But no, I'm going to go to the channels palette. Let's go ahead and drag it out. I'm actually going to throw that one away. So I'm going to go ahead and use the overall brightness of the image. I'm just going to hold the Command key on Mac, Control on Windows, and just click directly on the RGB channel. And it basically loads the brightness of the image as an active selection. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the new alpha channel icon. It creates a new alpha channel. You can see that subtle selection there. They look like twinkling stars. Oh,
nice.
So cool. So I'm going to fill it with white. So basically, it's the same image. It's just using that same brightness values. But now I'm going to go ahead and bring up my levels. Just press Command or Control L and push the dark slider all the way over until we get a lot more detail in the splash here. Not too much. If we go too dark, then it's just going to go look like crazy. But still want to maintain some of that subtle detail, but still see more of the detail than we originally did. We'll click OK. Now, because it's an alpha channel, the white areas are going to be my active areas, and the black areas are unselected. Gray areas will just be partially selected. So I need to invert it. So go to Image Adjustments and choose Invert. So now we're looking pretty cool. So now I'm just going to go ahead and just load this as an active selection once again. And then back in the Layers panel, create a new blank layer and fill it with white. There. See that?
That's awesome.
But now that splash element is nicely extracted. So I'm just going to drag this layer to this document over here where I have my dancer, and look how cool that transparency just kind of dances around her. So
I'm leaving.
I'm going to go ahead and just scale it down a little bit here.
You suck.
I hope everybody out there watching is right now writing Corey an email telling him how much he discussed you because...
But when I was originally doing this, I'm not done. When I was originally doing this, I'm like thinking, well, it looks cool so far. Why stop there? So I'm going to go ahead and add some layer styles. So we'll start with an outer glow, and let's just make it kind of a blue.
Why'd you add a Yeti?
And I'm just going to increase the size a little bit. It kind of gives us this kind of cool, mystical glow about it. I'm going to increase the opacity and change the blend mode to hard light. And now it's not just liquid, it's glowing. It's radioactive dancing. But then I got to this point, I'm thinking, that's pretty cool, but why stop there? So I'm going to go and add an inner glow. Here we go. And this one will make kind of a light blue.
You're like the Bob Ross of Photoshop, aren't you?
And that's going to add
We should get him an afro.
a little bit of a hint of a glow there. There's that. And then I thought, okay, that's pretty cool, but I have to end it by going into the blending options here, and down in the blend if section, I'm just going to split the white slider here and let some areas of that dancer kind of peer through. Makes the liquid a little bit more transparent. And now I can reposition this anywhere I want, and now I've got my mystical dancing water.
Now, would you say that blend if is one of the most least used, least understood? Most people don't mess with it, but it's so powerful.
Extremely powerful feature that nobody uses, and Adobe's done a really good job of hiding it over the past few years, right inside that layer styles panel. You know, it needs a little obvious. However, they did do one thing in CS6 to help you. If you would apply a blend if change, you'll notice here in the layer itself, there's that effects icon that I've got a layer style on. There's also that little overlapping squares.
Right.
That indicates that the blending options has been edited on this layer. So if you just double click on that, it'll open it up and bring you right to those blending options, and you can go ahead and do that. But don't forget that to be able to split that slider, because if you just grab the slider here and move it, it moves it all at once, and that blending is too harsh. So holding down the option key and then splitting that slider just makes that transition a little bit more subtle, and you get something really cool.
It seems like anything in Photoshop, if you hold down the Option or Alt button, it's going to do something even better.
You know, one time I actually did that. I actually went in Photoshop and had no agenda or no real project I was working on. I was just playing with tools and hitting modifiers and just seeing what they would do. It's really a fun. It's a nerdy thing to do. I was going to say a fun thing, but you have to be a nerd first.
And then he cackles in his room. Now you've got a pre-con at Photoshop World that you're going to be.
I'm going to be talking about channels, selections, masking, using channels for these types of selections, much more complex selections, and then using the newer features like Refine Edge, and it's getting the best selections possible out of Photoshop. So that's it.
That's just cool.
That's it. I love it. Anyway.
Very nice. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
What happened?
It seems that New Orleans is not the only place where blackouts can happen.
Oh, Lord. Are we going to be out like this for like 90 minutes?
I guess.
I was already with my...
Darn it! It didn't last 31 minutes, but you know, maybe it'll change the momentum of the show now.
Now that RC is going to take over, because
just bring us to within 3 minutes.
Just bring us.
All right. Wonderful.
Anyway, we had to throw that in. We just felt like it was necessary.
Okay. Speaking of random, let's go over to RC.
RC,
what's up, RC?
What's going on over there?
You know what? I had a very quick tutorial that I wanted to share with you guys on working with Bridge and Photoshop. A lot of the times, there's things that people don't know. It's usually something like the fact that, I don't know, Camera Raw and, well, Camera Raw just only. Camera Raw really lives inside of Photoshop and inside of Bridge, right? And a lot of people kind of besmirch Bridge, and I happen to be a big fan of Bridge. So let me just show you something here real quick. Right here, I have this document. I have a set of images that are open here. Now imagine if you were a person where you had a deadline looming, right? You had 500 pictures, 600 pictures, and you needed to take these pictures that are off of DNG files, and you need to be able to convert them and move them as JPEG files, right? Let's say you shot a wedding, you did a headshot session, all of that kind of stuff. Well, you don't want to necessarily go inside of a program and then start working with it and go, all right, well, file open, file save, file close, file open, file save, file close. That's just kind of annoying. Instead, what you can do is you can go inside of Photoshop, and in Photoshop, you can go to File Open, you can navigate to a specific directory, open up a bunch of images, and all of those images are going to open up in Bridge. Now, that seems easy enough, right? You take the images and you open them in Bridge and you make all of the changes. But there's a problem that you have with that, right? You'll see that all of this stuff opens up over here on the left-hand side, right? You have a series of images. Now, if I were to take these images, and let's just say that I made one change to this image here at the very top. Let's say I make a white balance change. Now, I grab all of these other images and I shift-click them. I can synchronize that adjustment by just clicking on the Synchronize button here and select a specific option. That's still pretty easy. But down here at the bottom, this is something that a lot of people do not pay too much attention to. That's my buddy Jay right there hanging out, looking all rough and rugged. But if you click on the Save Images section, you can take these DNG files and you could actually save them in a different directory. Right, so let's just go ahead and we'll call this directory test. And you can set them as a JPEG, as a TIFF, as a PSD. And if you set it as a JPEG, you can go ahead and set specific metadata. You can set compression settings. That's all well and good too. But here's the thing. Go back to your scenario, right? You have 500 shots. You're going to do this to 500 shots. You know what you can't do in these 500 shots now? Anything else inside of Photoshop. So if I were to come over here and I were to go to File, New, nothing, View, Filter, nothing. If this were working on 500 shots, you'd be locked out for 500 shots. But if you did this exact same thing inside of Bridge, so here's the same folder inside of Bridge. I'm going to shift-click all of these. I'm going to right-click and I'm going to open them in Camera Raw. I can do the exact same setup, right? I can come over here, make a change. I can select all of these changes here. I can synchronize if I needed to be able to do that. I can run the save images here. But the beauty of this is that this Camera Raw is inside of Bridge, not Photoshop. You have two versions. That means that while this is processing those 500 images, you can be in Photoshop making a new document or working on something else. So you don't necessarily have to tie up all of the resources. And you can you can work a little bit faster. It's a little bit more efficient when you're doing those kinds of things. So I think it's absolutely essential.
I think that's, a lot of people don't realize that they're actually, in essence, two different Camera Raws. One in Bridge, one in Photoshop.
It's about taking things seriously. We take things very, very seriously here. We take NAP member communities very, very seriously here. Ken fought. So anyway, but then just we're serious group.
And with that, we're back over here. I think with that, we're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about
we have giveaways. We got prizes here, yes.
Yep.
So we'll be right back. Stay with us. Come back.
I can't wait to do this again.
There's got to be a faster way to work in this program.
What you seek, young protege, is knowledge.
Yeah. That's cool and all, but could you actually just give me some shortcuts for this program?
Oh. Well, if that is all you seek, then you seek the wisdom of my fearless fire. The shortcut, Sumo Ninjas! What is the shortcut for camera 100% zoom?
Double-click the magnifying glass, sir!
What is shortcut to reset slider?
Double-click the name of the slider.
What is shortcut to swap foreground background color?
The keyboard shortcut is X.
What is command to paste in place?
Shift Command V, sir!
What is Lightroom shortcut for direct selection tool?
Press A on the keyboard, sir!
Whoa. Now you know the shortcut to shortcuts. Shortcut Sumo.
Well, what do you have to say about that? That promo, I love those outfits because they really help show off the midsection here. That's nice. I'm glad we did that.
Camera tricks made me look a lot faster than I actually am. Yeah,
I am actually that fast in real life.
That was great. That was Steve. I believe Steve in our video.
Steve is knocking it out, dude. In terms of promotions and things like that, yeah. Steve does a phenomenal job.
He really does.
We were quite concerned about the man booby thing, but I think it turned out all right. It was
digitally removed quite well. Okay.
I don't think you could say man booby on here.
And you just did. While the
language, Pete Collins, language.
While HR is on their way to the studio right now, we have arrived at the point of the show where we give stuff away. And today we have a couple of really cool prizes to give away. And to help us, I believe RC has a little helper over there for him.
So, all right, so we have a couple of different things that we want to give. Sup, please. So we have a couple of different prizes here. The first one is from Nicole S. Young. It's plug-in with ON1 software. If you are a fan of ON1 software and you use it, I think that the best thing for you to use is a step-by-step guide on how to do it, right? There's no better person, I think, out there to talk to you about photography and kind of really break it down than there is with Nicole. So it's a great book. If you're an ON1 user, you're going to absolutely love it. Next up, nice choice. Nice choice. Video in Photoshop, right? Photoshop CS6, it's got great video capabilities. I actually think it's one of the best things that came out in that release. Colin Smith has got a great book teaching you just how to be able to leverage all of that stuff right inside of Photoshop. Now, Corey, how do they win that?
How do you win? You simply go to kelbytv.com/PhotoshopUserTV and look for the episode 333. This actually, it's 332 is up right now. You'll look for the episode 333, and in the comment section, just leave us a comment. Tell us what you would like to see on the show, or what you would like to not see. How many more members you'd like to have us get in the studio here? Because we have a live studio audience. There's actually 600 people behind the camera right now watching the show right now. We've asked them to be quiet. Very quiet because we have to concentrate on what we're doing here. So, but they're here for the second show as well. So
nice.
All right, so just go there and again leave a comment. Tell us, tell us a joke. I don't know. Anything you want to hear?
They could tell us a joke. They could tell us a joke. They could
you know what? The winner is picked at random, so don't think if you're the most clever one you're going to get it.
I would prefer a haiku though. Yeah.
I will say this though. I think one of the things that works well on a lot of the shows is ask a question.
Absolutely.
Right. One of those things. I mean, guys, we do these shows for you guys. We do the shows for all of you guys, for Ken, for Elise. You know, these are the people that we do it for. And I think that it's often a good idea for you guys to actually just send us a question. Talk to us about it. If you have a question, do you have a question? You good? All right. Yeah. Okay. But if you have an idea, if you have something that you want to do, feel free to let us know. Go ahead and fill out that information and just be like, I've never really thought about this. That information we can use on the show, and obviously, we'd love to be able to hear from you guys, so keep that in mind.
Absolutely. So I believe that wraps things up for this episode. We want to thank our special guest, the coffee guy.
What's
up, coffee guy?
Coffee guy. Got a lot prettier, someone said in the chat.
Yeah, if you guys are in the Tampa, also, this is something that a lot of people do not know. If you're in the Tampa area, and you actually want to stop in and do a show, contact somebody like Larry Becker or contact somebody on the show page. Let us know. Guys, I mean, it sometimes can be a little hard, but do that. Make sure that you let us know that you're in town. If you want to come by, you're more than welcome to come and take my job.
Most definitely.
Pete's job.
All right, again, thank you very much, Pete. Thank you.
Yep.
And RC, thank you for joining us.
Not a problem.
Taking time out of the busy tour schedule to come and show us some things. So we'll see you guys next time here on Photoshop User TV. Thanks. come again.